I think one of the challenges we have at the Cooper Hewitt is to uh, entice our visitors who do come and walk through the door to feel comfortable and welcomed. We're in the Andrew Carnegie Mansion. It is a big house. It was literally designed to keep uninvited guests out. And so kind of trying to reframe the museum in a way that feels more inviting to allow people to get past that kind of threshold fear was really important. And one of the ways that we thought would be helpful in that effort was the pen and the ability to dig into our collection through the use of interactives throughout the galleries. The museum, the mansion itself, and our collection have their own tension to begin with. The collection that we have really has nothing to do with the mansion itself. They were married together by the Smithsonian. And so it's always been a challenge to figure out how to exhibit, decorative arts and contemporary design inside of someone's old house. And I actually think that the technology that we've introduced here, especially the digital tables, create kind of a buffer for that. They create a place to kind of pause and reflect and, think a little bit between checking out the mansion and checking out the things on the walls. They give you sort of, places along the way in your gallery experience to kind of take a minute and explore a little bit in a different way. So I think they work really successfully in that way. And more importantly, they're very social apps. So the table is designed to be kind of like a dinner table where you have different place mats and that kind of thing. And if you're there by yourself or if you're there with a group, it doesn't really matter. You have to sort of interact with the rest of the people at the table, especially in the immersion room. You can kind of fight over who's on the wall at the moment. And that ability to have people kind of feel like they need to deal with each other in a physical space like that is really kind of interesting to see happen. When we first started out, the idea for the pen was basically a PowerPoint slide that somebody showed in a meeting. It was, a Google search of a stylus, someone holding a stylus. And it was at that point, a design fiction. It was basically vaporware. It didn't exist. But the thought was there, what if we could give out a pen to every visitor that came in the museum, and that pen could be kind of like their ticket to the museum. It could be kind of like their pass, and it would allow them to do things like collect objects and create designs, and also more importantly, have kind of the feeling of permission to be there. So in a way, the physical device really, as soon as you kind of grab it at the visitor services desk, there's this sort of, at least in my opinion, this feeling that you're there to do things and you're not just there to walk around with your hands in your pockets. So that was sort of the genesis of the idea of the pen. The process of taking that from that PowerPoint slide to an actual physical thing was long and complicated and involved a lot of different entities. So there was the Cooper Hewitt staff. There was Diller, Scofidio, and Renfro. It was our architects that worked on the installation and a lot of the renovation project. Then there was Local Projects, who's a company in New York that does interactives in museums and that sort of thing. But there was also a lot of other companies involved that did things like the industrial design of the pen, what its physical form looks like. We partnered with a company in Spain called Sistel, who created the guts of the pen, the circuit board, and the engineering of how it stores data and the battery consumption and that kind of thing. And then we worked with manufacturing firms to actually produce the pen and build it in Taiwan. We do spend a lot of time in the galleries observing people, visitors, see what's going on, and a lot of time spent observing what our visitor services staff are doing and how they interact with the pen and all of our technology. Personally, I've noticed that there's a lot of different behavior patterns. There's a lot of different types of people who approach the museum and approach the pen in a lot of different ways. And I think it greatly depends on what they're there to do, if they're a tourist, if they're a group or a family, if they're there on their own, and that sort of thing. If they're more tech savvy or less tech savvy, if they're a child or an adult, all these different sort of demographics weigh heavily on how people approach the pen. But I think one of the things that we really tried to focus on with the pen was that it's not another screen to look at. It's not something you walk around with and kind of look down at the whole time. It's a really, it's kind of the core device of design, and it really speaks to you and says, this is for you to do things with. And I think that's one of the things about the pen that, I think is really powerful. It's, it's not an app. It's